Friends, I think one of the most significant paragraphs in the Catechism, we hear this: the entire Christian life bears the mark of the spousal love of Christ for his church. The entire thing, everything that we have, everything that we do, everything that we're about, ultimately is stamped through and through to the bottom with this spiritual signature, this spiritual DNA of Christ's spousal love for the church. What does that mean? It means that Christ is not just simply interested in a personal relationship with us, as great as personal relationships are. The least inadequate analogy, the least inadequate image that he gives us, he says, this side of heaven, the image is something like that of spouses, which is to say, I want all of me to be poured out and given as a gift to all of you, and I want you to open and receive and reciprocate the gift of your humanity. That's what it means to submit to the lordship of Jesus Christ. I open myself, I receive, I say yes to everything you want to give me. So this parable that we have today, this imagery of the wise and the foolish virgins and the arrival of the bridegroom, it's so significant. It's so significant. It's at the very heart of Jesus' identity. And part of what we need is a little bit of first century Jewish background to understand a little bit more what's going on here. There's some things that will kind of pop to light. So this business of the bridegroom arriving, why is he arriving? Well, because in the ancient Jewish world, the way that marriage would work is that there would be this sort of two-step process. First, there'd be the betrothal period. The way that the betrothal period would work is, if you're a young Jewish man, you want to marry this Jewish girl, you'd first approach your father. That's all still the same, right? You approach your father, and you would present her a cup of wine. And you would say, this is the cup of my covenant. Does that sound a little familiar? Yes or yes? Yes, good, okay. This is the cup of my covenant. And if she accepted, you began and entered into the betrothal period, right? So you were married, but you did not yet live together. Think of Mary and Joseph, right? You're married, but you don't yet live together, meaning you don't yet experience the fullness of the consummation of your union. So, you're that young Jewish man. You go back to your father's house, and you begin to build a room onto your father's house where you and your wife and your future family would live. And it's the father who oversees the project. The father is the one who's determining whether or not it's ready for the night of consummation, ready for the wedding. This should sound familiar when Jesus says, in my Father's house there are many mansions, there are many dwellings. And then when he speaks about the return of the Son of Man, the second coming, he says, nobody knows, not the angels, not the principalities, not even the Son, only the Father knows. Jesus, at the night of the Last Supper, he enters into this betrothal with humanity. The bridegroom has given himself to the bride. And he returns, he goes off to his Father's house to do what? To prepare a place for us. And only the Father knows when it's ready, when he'll send the Son to go retrieve the bride. That's what's happening in this parable. That's what's happening. The Father has said, go get your bride. It's time to enter the wedding feast. And announcing before the bridegroom, there's a character, his name is the shoshbim. In Hebrew, it's the best man. And his job is to announce the bridegroom. Say, behold, there he is. Friends, that's John the Baptist. John the Baptist is the shoshbim. He's Jesus' best man who's announcing the bridegroom. So the wedding feast begins at this unknown hour. And these bridesmaids, essentially what they are, these wise and foolish virgins, 5 are prepared and 5 are unprepared. Now, why did the wise virgins not share their oil with the unwise? Because this seems a little bit like, this doesn't seem very Christian, right? Why aren't they sharing? I thought sharing is caring, right? Okay. What's the deal with that? At the end of the age, at the end of your life, the oil that you have to burn, it's yours and yours alone. You cannot borrow the virtues, the faith, the life of love from anybody else. The oil is the preparation for the heart to burn. You can't borrow that from anybody else. That has to be you and you alone. Right? At the end of this gospel, Jesus closes the door and he looks at them and says, "Depart from me, I never knew you." Like, the scariest thought for me is at the end of my life that Jesus would look at me and say, "I never knew you." And I would say, we would think, well, what do you mean you didn't know me? Like, you're God. How do you not know me? Don't you know every, hair on my head, right? Other people's heads. Don't you know everything about me? Didn't you knit me together in my mother's womb? And he'll say, yes, but you never opened your heart to let me in. I never knew you. Friends, this is what this parable, this is what this gospel in so many ways is about. That we have to open the depths of our hearts, open ourselves deeper and deeper to let the Lord in. That he would know us. Not just intellectual knowledge, but this intersubjective, interpersonal knowing. We lose that sense of knowing in English. In other Romance languages, they got objective knowing, right? I know this thing, versus subjective knowing. I know this person. There's different verbs in other languages. We don't have that in English. All right, I digress. You get the point. We have to open our hearts. No one else can give us the oil. It's us and us alone. In opening our hearts, that's the preparation for the bridegroom. So let us do that in this Mass today. Amen.